So,
Hi. Okay.
Familiar with weaving?
Oh, I knew that's what that was.
Yeah.
Are you making a rug or?
What I'm doing, I'm going to be making a rag rug,
Okay.
but what I'm doing right now is actually getting the threads put on the loom. That's a part a lot of people don't ever end up seeing.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of people see it when they're on and people are weaving. But anyway, that's what I'm in the middle of doing, is putting these on. These are just cotton threads that I'm putting on. And after I get done with that, then I'll just be using these rags.
Oh,
Just to
okay.
make a rag rug, like kind of what's on the wall.
Mhm.
Except what's on the wall is about 50 years old. It came off of this loom years ago. And anyway, but during the Civil War, people brought their looms and spinning wheels back out. It was a way of life. The spinning and weaving was a way of life up until about the early 1800s, 1830. And then people could start getting material. You could, you had ways to make your clothes with the material and stuff. So a lot of the looms and spinning wheels were put in the barns and the attics, stored away, just because they didn't use them. Now, in the middle of the Civil War, it got to the point where, because of the blockades, you couldn't get material back and forth. Factories were no longer being used to make material. So therefore, at that time, around 1863, 1864, people brought the looms back out. They got the looms back out, the spinning wheels back out. Now, this area didn't necessarily have cotton to spin. You would have had wool. Wool was easier to, have access to here. So what I've got on that spinning wheel, I've been spinning some wool over there. They would have just used a dye, any kind of a dye, tree bark, walnuts, pecan shells, flowers, anything, roots, anything to dye with. At that time, it wasn't necessarily, they weren't dyeing the wool and the yarn out of wanting vibrant colors. They just wanted a different color. So it was kind of not necessarily fashion, but a necessity at that time. Now, when I spin wool, that determines if I'm going to make a blanket or a coat. If I spin it thicker, then that's a heavier item, like a coat or a blanket. If I'm going to spin stuff for like a shirt or pants, it's all going to be a lot thinner. I will spin as thin as I can. It's going to take me a lot longer to weave it because of the thinner yarns. But I can weave an item. I can thread this and weave a bolt of material in 1 to 2 days. However, the spinning is what's going to take forever. It's going to take a long time. So, needless to say, they probably every extra moment that they would have had, they would have been spinning. Now, keep in mind also, especially in this area, a lot of clothing and scarves and things like that, coats, blankets were a necessity that a lot of the women were having to make and trying to get put out as quickly as possible. So anyway, so there would have been a lot of spinning going on. Now I'm still trying to tie this on. Now the way this loom works, for any of you not familiar with weaving, what I'm doing is putting the threads on. This is what I always say is the ugly part of weaving, because it doesn't seem like you're ever going to get there. This is a 2-harness loom, or a 2-frame loom. So these are just 2 frames hanging. If you can see, on these is a little wire, and that wire's got a little eye or a hole in it. That's what I have to put the threads through. So what I do is I put half of the threads on one, half of the threads on the other, going back and forth. So it's thread 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way through till I had them all on. Once I get them through that part, then I bring them through this section. There's little slots in this. This piece, this is metal or steel. This is called a reed, although it's not made from reed anymore. They never changed the name. What's hanging up here, you can see that one, that's a reed. And it's made from reed. So they never dropped the name. We still call this a reed. Anyway, you have to put all your threads through here, and that's what keeps your threads lined up and straight. I'm in the middle of tying this on, but when I step on one pedal or treadle, it raises one frame and it lowers the other. When it does that, it makes a gap in the thread, and that's what I throw my shuttle through, okay? So then when I step on the other one, it raises and lowers the opposites. And when it does that, it's doing the other threads. Then I could throw my shuttle through, comes back and opens the other, back and forth. So that's how weaving takes place. It's just like a basket weave. It's just over, under, over, under. So that's how you basically weave. So right now I'm still tying these threads on. And like I said, I'll be doing a rag rug here in a little bit. And just using big ball of rags. That's all I'm using. And that'll make a rag rug. And I can get done with one of these in about an hour. Because it's thicker. Now if I'm using like what I've been spinning on this spinning wheel, it's going to take a lot longer because I got a lot more threads to go back and forth and back and forth. So it would take a while. So anyway, but that's basically it as far as the weaving and spinning.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Thank you.
Got any questions?
No, very time consuming.
This part is time consuming. Now the spinning, that definitely does take a lot longer to come up with enough. If you could imagine, I would have to spin enough on there to have done each one of these threads. I have right now 15 yards wound onto this loom on the back. So you imagine 15 yards of yarn or thread. So if I had to spin that, that's a lot of spinning.
What do you spin?
I spin wool. Now, see that basket of,
How do you spin on them?
I can show you real quick if you want to see it.